welcome to another episode of the Out of Office Club. As you can see, I am back in the Netherlands. To anyone who's been following me online, you'll have seen my journey to Poland and back from Poland for an English teaching program. My last podcast, I kind of told you about what I was going to do in Poland, but of course that was just before the program. So I thought this week it would be fun to share a bit of the what happened during the travel, but of course mostly about how this work exchange was, because I had never done something like this, and also never with Worldpackers. I've never done a work exchange, so I thought it would be fun to share my experience with this, how it was, if I would recommend it to you, and what I would recommend, and talk to you about the journey, because I took a bus trip or a bus to Poland, which was 15 hours, which was very long. Um, so that you would know if this is something that you'd like to do. So I left last Friday at, I think it was 3 or 4 p.m. on a bus from The Hague, Netherlands to Poznan, Poland. It was a 15-hour overnight bus with FlixBus, which is rough. If anyone's ever taken a FlixBus, they'll know it's either just fine and it works, or it's not a very great experience. And that usually has nothing to do with FlixBus so much. I've taken a couple of their buses and they've always been fine. But it's more to do with the people in the bus. Some people just don't understand how to behave on an overnight bus. There were people behind me who were drinking, who were kind of loud at 2 a.m., who kept bumping into my seat and moving my headrest or my back of my seat, which was super annoying. And one guy thought it was a good idea to put his feet right next to my seat, like the gap between my seat and the window, which I find absolutely disgusting. So when I kind of, with I think my elbow, with my water bottle, kind of pushed it away, because like my face is right here and then your foot is here. I think that's unacceptable. You should be kicked out of the bus for that and never allowed back on a bus. But I kicked his foot away, and then he decided, oh no, a better place to put my foot is directly above her, like leaning on her seat. So that got me so angry that I turned around and I tried to push his leg away, but this man was sound asleep and probably drunk. He didn't even wake up. He just kept moving his feet around or his foot around until he decided, this is uncomfortable. I'm gonna put both my feet down. So that was very annoying. I didn't get any sleep on that bus trip, unfortunately. I probably already said this last week, but anyway, didn't get any sleep. I did go and walk around Poznan when I got there, which was really fun. Did the free walking tour, met nice people, so that was at least really good. And in the evening, I met up with the teachers. Like I said last week, I think the average age is like 65 of the teachers, right? And later, when I spoke to another of the teachers, she was a bit younger. She was, I think, around 35. She also told me, but yeah, think about who would have the time to come here during the week and teach for 5 days straight as a volunteer. Generally, those are people that are retired. And then it made a lot more sense to me. And I was like, yeah, of course. They would have the time for this. Most of them had a background in teaching or were just native English speakers and loved to travel. So that made a lot of sense. And I must say, even then, at first I was a tiny bit disappointed. I was like, oh, this is, a very different experience. But in the end, it was so much fun. Most of those teachers were really, really nice and a lot of fun. So that was nothing to worry about there, basically. But the program itself, it was 5 days. It started on Sunday afternoon. So we were picked up from Poznan, brought to the hotel. And this hotel is where all of the teachers and students slept. But we also had the conference room there for the program itself. And it started Sunday evening or afternoon We did a little introduction, everyone got to know each other, and then we immediately started with our first conversation. So, how this program works is there is no classes, no formal teaching. There's only games and a lot of conversations. So, every hour, I had a different student who I had to talk to or talk with. We got a topic from the organizers, and they're like, this is just as a guide. You don't have to talk about this topic, but then at least the student get a different topic every hour, so at least they get to do different vocabulary about different topics. And that helped because some of the Polish students, they were all adults, about around 40, let's say, and up, and they were all there mainly because they wanted to travel, or they just had an interest in learning English. But I think about 60-70% was there for work. They realized they needed it more and more in work. So then you would speak to the student for an hour about whatever topic they picked or we got on a card, and you would help them with mistakes that they made. So either in pronunciation or in sentence structure or grammar, or sometimes they had a question about what I said, a word I used. But it was very free and fun. And while you were talking, you could just walk around. It was really good weather while I was there. So we did a lot of walks around the hotel. You could sit anywhere inside the hotel, didn't matter. At some point, one of the students came up to me and was like, do you want to go for a walk and get an ice cream? Amazing. It was 34 degrees, so that was perfect. So that was quite fun. I will say I was a bit nervous for that first conversation, but I realized very quickly there's no need to be nervous. This is all really relaxed and fun. We That's kind of what we did then over the next couple days. So on Sunday was just one conversation, introductions, dinner together, and then a game in the evening. And then starting the next day, that's how every day was: breakfast, warm-ups, conversations, lunch, dinner, more games, more conversation, and then some more like special events, like going to a park or going bowling or whatever that was. And on Friday was a presentation from the students, which we had helped them create, and then we all said goodbye and we left. So I must say I didn't enjoy all of it. I'll be very honest. In the end, if I look back on it now, I was like, yeah, it was a really cool experience and I'm glad I did it. But it was a very long day, and every day was about the same. So Sunday and Monday, fun because everything was new. Tuesday and Wednesday, quite tough because they were very long days and it was the same. And then Thursday was a bit easier because we had a longer social event in the afternoon. Or Wednesday, that was. On Thursday, I had bowling to kind of distract me. Plus, I like bowling. And on Friday was goodbye. But so Monday, or especially Tuesday, Wednesday, I was a bit, I think also just tired from the long days because you're social the whole day, starting at 8:30 till like 10. And after that, usually I play cards with the teachers, or I learned how to play mahjong, which is super fun. So yeah, my social battery was dead by Tuesday. But you don't really have time to recharge because you're constantly on. Anytime a student comes up to you, you want to be friendly and you want to help them, and you can't just say, oh no, I don't want to talk. So yeah, in that way, I think the program was super intense, but then all the people were super fun and really nice. So that kind of makes up for it. But it definitely is a lot. Would I do it again? Probably not anytime soon, just because of how intense it was. But the whole time while I was teaching, I did think I would love to do this myself. But then, for example, for Spanish, the hardest thing about learning a language is finding people to speak with and also actually speaking. And the good part here is that because we were all, well, except for me and one other person, native English speakers, and none of us spoke Polish, the Polish student didn't have a choice but to speak English with us. Like, we had no other way of communicating. And that really helps because I've had Also, like ex-boyfriends of mine who I could practice German with or Spanish, but I never would because we both spoke English. And it was a lot easier and a lot less embarrassing for myself to just speak English and not really try. But in these situations, they had to speak English. They couldn't get away with any other language or any other way of communicating. So, sure, there was a lot of Google translating something for them sometimes because they could not explain a word to us. But that's fine. Um, so, I do think I would do a program myself again as a teacher, maybe in a couple years. Or if I find a really fun place to do it, or maybe a different kind of program. I'm not sure if they're all the same, but it was fun and I learned a lot about Polish culture and met lots of really nice people. So in that way, it was 100% worth it. Um, as a teacher, it is quite tiring, I would say. But I would love to do it myself, but for my Spanish in a while though, because right now I'm still A1 in Spanish. My Spanish is not good enough to do this kind of program. But in case you are interested in learning a language, whatever language that is, try and find these speaking programs. I'm not exactly sure how to Google for them, but I think it is interesting. However, I would not recommend them if you're a complete beginner, like A1, maybe even A2, because there were a couple people in this program too that were, I think, A1, A2 level English speaker. If you're not familiar, A1, it's the way of kind of indicating what someone's level is in a language. There's A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. So, give you an example, C2 would be my Dutch because I'm native. My English is about C1 to C2 level. My Spanish, where I know maybe 4 words, is A1. So that's a true beginner. You know a couple words, but you struggle creating sentences. That's my Spanish. There were a couple people in this program too who spoke maybe A1 English. Having a conversation with them was almost impossible. I don't think they understood much of what was going on, and I do really admire their courage to do this and how much effort they put in it. But it's still tough, and I feel like then maybe it is too early to do a program like this. You're still so focused on vocabulary and learning the basics that there's not much conversation to be had. You know what I mean? I think as soon as you have a bit more vocabulary and understanding of the language and grammar, then learning how to speak, super valuable. So I think they all got something out of it for sure. But I think it was a lot more valuable for the B1 or A2 B1 speakers than it was for the true beginners. So that is something to keep in mind if you're interested in doing something like this. Or if you want to be a teacher, as long as you have C1, C2, and not too much of an accent, you would be okay for this kind of program. I mean, I'm not native and I could come. So, but yeah, maybe I'll do it myself in a little bit as both student and teacher. Last day was on Friday. Everyone said goodbye. And then I went to town with a couple other teachers. And because my bus back to the Netherlands didn't leave till 1 a.m., we went out for some drinks and dinner, which was really, really nice. Had a really good time. I was very sad to say goodbye then because I felt like during the week we didn't even get that much time to speak, like an hour or two after the day. But during the day, of course, we're all busy with students or eating. So I didn't actually get to know them that well until the last day, which was a shame. Um, but yeah, maybe I'll see them again. They were really nice people, so I enjoyed that. The bus back was a lot better, but there was one guy next to me. He didn't. I think I don't even know where he was from, but he didn't say one word. Completely fine with that. But he just stared to the front of the bus. He just stared outside for 15 hours. He did not watch a movie. He didn't listen to music. I didn't see him on his phone. I think that man took 2 naps of like 20 minutes. That was it. I could never. I need entertainment at all time. Um, he just stared straight ahead in the bus for 15 hours. I thought that was interesting. I was watching him more sometimes than anything else. But you know, if it works for him, good for him. I think he probably worked out at least 10 years of childhood trauma or something. I don't know what else you're going to do for 15 hours on a bus ride. But yeah, good for him, I guess. Um, I did not sleep once again. So last night, I think I slept for 12 hours, which I really, really needed. And now, yeah, I've got a week and a half here before I head to Spain, which I'm super excited for. Um, but yeah, back to the program. Um, if you do want to do something like this, look into speaking English courses. I know Angloville is one. I'm not sure where it is, but there's so many. I heard a lot of the teachers that were there, this is what they did. So, for example, there was one man named John. He was super nice. He was from Ireland. He was a bit older. And he said, well, this is basically my social life. I just go around, go to these speaking courses, meet a bunch of people, help out. He that was his social life, and he enjoyed it so much. I got to travel as well, so. And a bunch of other people did too. There was one guy who was teaching in Slovenia, but then traveled around sometimes to do programs in other countries. I know they have these programs in Prague, in Slovenia, in Spain. There was one teacher there who hosted these kind of courses, although hers was more of a retreat, but in Portuguese. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know. Yeah, a lot of them would just travel around and do these types of classes, or as a teacher. But if you want to improve your English, I think that would be a really good opportunity. I found mine again on Worldpackers. If you want to know more about this, let me know. I also have a discount code if you use the words talk soon. You get, all in capital letters, you get, I think, $10 off. So, but they have all kinds of programs, like I said last week. So that's definitely worth checking out. I really enjoyed it, but do you remember last week when I was like, you may need to make sure that you choose the right program that doesn't involve like too many hours and works with your schedule? Yeah, I thought I had done that for this program because they told me you'll work about 5 hours a day. They said 25 hours in a week and you get 2 days off. So that equates to 5 hours a day. It wasn't. As soon as I got there, oh, and I even asked the guy on the phone. So I double checked with some guy who works with them. It's 5 hours a day. And he said, yeah, basically it's very flexible and you get a lot of breaks and yeah, but yeah, around that. It wasn't. Even if officially there were only 5 to 6 conversations a day, like in hours, so 5, 6 hours, you still had to be on for the whole day. So it was still a good 12, 13 hours a day of working. Sure, it's conversational and it's relaxed and you can do and say whatever. You're still working. So I definitely don't agree with the 5 hours a day. And that's also something that maybe I was just mentally not prepared for. So that impacted my experience a little bit, regardless of how it was planned and organized. That's something I wasn't too happy about. And also wrote that in my review. I was like, this isn't 5 hours a day. Like, don't be fooled. This is a full day. And from what I've heard from other teachers, most of these programs are a good 12 hours a day. Which was exhausting for the students and for the teachers. But again, it is like a super intensive crash course. So on the other hand, you do learn a shit ton in just 5 days. So that's a trade-off. I just didn't know that because it's my first time doing this program. And basically they weren't too honest on their website or on their page on Worldpackers. Had I known this, would I've gone? Possibly, because work was a bit quieter this week, which I was lucky with, because what I did now is I had to work basically during my breakfast. So I would have breakfast quickly, go back and work. During all of my breaks, which was usually just 1 or 2 hours a day, I would go back to my room and work. So that was a bit stressful. Plus the Wi-Fi sucked, so that didn't help. But yeah, if you're looking to combine it with online work, this maybe isn't the best. But if that's not what you're focused on, then it's perfect. I mean, you get your stay and 3 meals a day for free. So that's pretty nice. It's just a nice way to meet people, travel alone, but then not be alone at all, ever. I had a roommate as well. and it's fun. But yeah, again, I wouldn't quickly do this again just because it was a lot. Sorry, I got very distracted from a very loud motorbike that went past. What else did I want to share? Um, yeah, I think what I found very interesting, because I've been traveling a lot on my own, but I'm usually not very comfortable in groups, these group settings. I know some of you might not guess this about me based on what you've seen solely on social media or on here. I am quite a shy person. I'm not that outgoing. I find it very hard to speak in front of people. I get embarrassed very easily. Don't confuse that with um, getting. Oh, now my English is gone. I think I've been speaking so much English the past week. It's just gone now. But yeah, I just whatever I was gonna say, I don't know. But I'm a shy person. When I was younger, I would walk like behind my dad if he would go into anywhere where we knew a lot of people. I would walk behind and try to be quiet and try to be invisible. So I was always very nervous in groups of people because a lot of people are looking at you. I find that tough. And what I noticed now during these 5 days is that that has gotten so, so much better. I wasn't nervous about going there. I was, of course, a little bit nervous when I had to do my introduction because that's the moment I panic. Now I suddenly have to tell people about myself, like in front of a group of 20. Then I panic a little bit, but not as much. And it was so relaxed and nice, the atmosphere, that everyone was just joking. And I also said and did things in front of the group, and I was quite proud, maybe even, and surprised of how much I've grown in that area, being more secure and comfortable. And that 100% comes from first traveling and putting myself in these weird situations, because I would have never ever thought to do a teaching job with 20 strangers if I hadn't found this opportunity. And anyway, with traveling has put me in many strange situations where I did have to go and speak up or stand up for myself or get myself out of situations, or yeah, talk in front of groups, especially when you go to um, meetups or other events. Sometimes they'll ask you a question and suddenly you have 8 to 10 people looking at you, and that can be stressful. But I've been in, I think, so many situations in the last couple of years, maybe even unknowingly, like I didn't register it at the time, but now that I was in a situation like that again where I had to speak in front of a group of people, I just realized how calm I was and how much I have grown in confidence, which was really nice to see and to notice, that I didn't overthink my words as much as I would have done 5, 10 years ago. Because I know it's easy to think on social media that someone is a certain way, that someone is super confident, but you only see the pictures and videos where I, look best and where I speak a certain way, maybe even. Plus they say that people have different personalities in different languages, which I do find interesting. My sister told me the other week that I speak differently in English and that I move my face differently in English even. So yeah, I got self-conscious about that, which was lovely. No, but that made me laugh too. But it was just nice to see how much I've grown. And I think in these 5 days, I've gotten even better with that, because now I was again put in a very different situation, sometimes even a bit uncomfortable, and I still got embarrassed sometimes, don't get me wrong, but so much less. And I don't know if anyone can relate, probably you can, but when I get embarrassed, I get bright red. Not just a little bit, not a little like cute, no, bright red. And I got bullied for this in school. I'm very self-conscious about it. I know when it happens, I absolutely hate when it happens. And when it does, I just want to disappear and get out of there, which you often can't, especially in group settings. But yeah, I turned bright red. And that, I think, only happened twice during that week of teaching, which I think is a win. I see that as a win. Only twice. And not even because I embarrassed myself, but because I felt very seen and observed. And I think I told a joke and it made everyone laugh. And somehow, because of that, I got embarrassed. You know, it doesn't always make sense. Sometimes I get bright red even though nothing has happened, but something about the situation that makes me feel awkward. But yeah, it only happened twice, so I was proud of that. And again, I just think whenever you do these weird things, like this felt to me like a random side quest. Like I'm on a certain path and thing I want to do, which is just travel and work for myself. And now I have this little side quest where I did a bit of English teaching. And I'm sure next week or next month or whatever, I'll do another side quest, another random little project. But they make it interesting. And that's, I think, also why I love traveling so much. I've done so many fun, random trips and things anywhere that I would have otherwise never done if I hadn't traveled so much. Oh, yeah. It was a good experience. I learned a lot about teaching in general, Polish culture. I met lots of really nice people. I learned something more about myself. I think I grew as a person a little bit, even in just 5 days, and maybe just a little bit, but it was still really, really good. And even for that, I would recommend people to do this. Maybe not this program specifically, but any kind of work exchange anyway. I think it was really fun. So yeah, that was it about my trip to Poland. Again, that was on World Packers. Check it out. I've got also a link on my website with the discount code, and you'll get a bit more info there if you're interested. I put it in the description as well. Check it out. They've got lots of stuff, and it's a really, really good way to travel cheaper too. Since usually you don't pay for your accommodation, sometimes a couple of meals, but I mean, that's better than having to pay for all of them. And in a week and a half, I'll go to Spain. So I'll share a bit more on my social media about, especially my Instagram, what I'm going to do there. So I highly recommend you to follow. Thank you anyway for listening again this week. Of course, don't forget, rate, subscribe, follow, all of that. It really, really helps. Thank you so much. And then I hope to see you next week. Bye bye.